word you use?
Spoilers.
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 Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers.
I like that word.
I thought you might.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Review Who, and we're back once again on existing ground, which is good because we're going to need it to make a hasty retreat from the war machines. The War Machines is another of those early Doctor Who stories that I have certainly seen more times than others, but if I'm honest, it's kind of hard to put my finger on exactly why. There's certainly an element of it being one of the few completed stories that swim in a sea of otherwise missing ones from the same era, but on another level, there's something about it which makes it feel longer than it is. I often get to the end of it feeling like I've watched a 6-parter even though I've only watched a 4-parter. And I mean that in a good way. It's a story which feels long, but never dull. Whilst the overall story is nothing really new to Doctor Who, the premise itself is an interesting one for its solely contemporary, for the time, setting. Obviously this is something which has been done before, such as with the first episode of An Unearthly Child, Planet of the Giants, and sections of the Daleks' Master Plan. However, all of those stories have added sci-fi elements already within them, and also some fantasy-style plot lines. Whereas The War Machines is not only set completely within the then modern day, but also deals with fantastical ideas not outside the realms of possibility. In an era where what we would consider modern computer technology to be emerging, the idea of an artificial intelligence being created wasn't that far-fetched. And where better to set the story than in the then recently completed tallest building in London. Whilst not overly scary, it does certainly have some home horror elements to it. Before now, the audience was relatively safe from many of the terrors that the Doctor faced, but now it was on their metaphorical doorstep. Another interesting aspect to this story is the idea of humanity becoming slaves to technology. Whilst that's not a new premise for the show, and it was certainly not the original intention of this story, in the current era of dependence on things like smart devices and the internet, where almost each of us effectively carry around glorified tracking devices which learn and interpret our patterns in order to better deliver the digital world to us, when you actually stop to think about it, perhaps the War Machines has unknowingly become an allegory ahead of its time. The action in this story is another good example of its pacing. It starts off very narrative-based, with the first 2 episodes focusing on Wotan's more covert means of control, such as taking over Dodo and Polly, whereas the last 2 episodes are more physical, with the titular war machines being deployed and fought on the streets of London. This is very much what I meant by long, but never dull. The first 2 episodes feel long because it's more talk and narrative setup, and then the second 2 feel long because there is a lot happening on screen. But the pace itself never stops. It leads on the story very consistently. If I had to pick a particular piece of action in this story, it would be the Doctor facing down the War Machine at the end of episode 3. It's not the first time we've seen the Doctor stand his ground against an enemy, but given that we've just seen this single War Machine wipe out an entire armed patrol, it's really one of those standout moments that we've come to know the Doctor for. No weapons, no real plan, just the courage to face their foes. One of the most notable elements of this story is the departure of Dodo, who after being hypnotised by Wotan is broken from this by the Doctor and sent away to another character's country home to recover. However, after this, she is never seen again, and even barely mentioned until the end of episode 4, when Ben and Polly inform the Doctor that she has decided to stay in London. The reason for this was due to Jackie Lane's contract expiring halfway through the recording of this serial. And according to Jackie herself, then producer Lloyd never actually discussed Dodo's departure with Jackie. and simply let her contract run out. Following this, she left the acting industry, pursuing various careers and later becoming a theatrical agent, representing other Doctor Who alumni such as Tom Baker and Janet Fielding. However, further appearances from her in the field of Doctor Who were extremely rare, as she said herself that she didn't wish to keep going over older career work that she had previously already discussed in length. Her last known appearance regarding Doctor Who was at the Time-Space Visualizer Convention in 2020, sending greetings to Doctor Who fans before passing away the following year on the 23rd of June 2021. I'm going to finish off this review with a slightly strange analogy. The War Machines is like ordering your favourite dish in a fancy restaurant that only serves small portions. It's never going to be particularly filling. There's nothing new about it, and there are certainly nicer things you could have ordered. But not only can you be certain you will have enjoyed it, but you will be left with room for more and wanting it. But that brings to a close another episode of Review Who. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, share, it really helps me a lot. And check the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.